What is going on, YouTube? I feel like today not very many people talk about how amazing the OG Xbox was. The great franchises, the what felt like unlimited hard drive space, so that way you never had to buy memory cards or extra storage because it felt impossible to fill it up. And just how it just graphically came out of nowhere and challenged Sony and Nintendo, and even to me pushed the bar even farther. So in today's video, I want to talk about 5 OG Xbox titles that till this day I still pop in and play. And I'm going to show you a little bit of gameplay and talk a little bit more about my experiences with it. And I want to know in the comments below, what are some OG Xbox games that you guys enjoy? First, we're going to jump off with one that I recently talked about in a collab video with a fellow Super Retro Force member. Speaking of that, links to their channels below. But we're going to talk about Ninja Gaiden first off. Or Gaiden. I don't know how it's pronounced. Originally released on arcade and NES, this game was absolutely amazing. I know that it was actually dubbed as one of the hardest Xbox games. I shouldn't say hardest overall, but I know a lot of people gave up on the first boss because he was... it's really hard. But I love the story of this game. What is more amazing and just ninjas. If you guys were raised in the 90s, it was karate and ninjas were the coolest thing ever. And the whole part of this game is all the ninja stuff going on, and then charging up a special attack that you can at once release and take out a bunch of enemies at once. I feel like Ninja Gaiden's been very underrated over the last few years. I think the last game that we got was maybe Ninja Gaiden Sigma or Stigma or whatever it was on the PS3, I believe. But otherwise, it's really been in the dark. I loved this one. I loved the one on Xbox 360, Ninja Gaiden 2, and I just really like to go back some days and get my butt kicked. Now, before games like Dark Souls and stuff were out, this was the hard game that everybody was talking about. Now, moving on, we're going to keep going talking. We were just talking about karate, and now we're going to move on to a little bit of the Eastern culture. Now, what do I mean by that? Oh, wow. If you were into karate movies and everything like that, just absolutely amazing. Not only was this about Kung Fu, it had all the mystic arts, the storylines, all the mythical animals, creatures, everything. This game had it all. And I remember when I got this on the original Xbox, I was blown away by it completely. Because at that time, Xbox really didn't have very many RPGs. It was all like action games and stuff like that. And PS2 is reigning king with all the RPGs. So I remember as a huge fan of these, when I finally discovered this game, I could not believe it. I'd spend hours just grinding and playing through this game. It had fun little side games, and like I said, the story was absolutely amazing. And like we mentioned it before, if you were born in the 90s and stuff like that, karate stuff, or if you were raised in the 90s, karate was king, man. So you had, spells, you had your physical attacks, you had all these accessories. It was just absolutely gorgeous. This was a good-looking game at the time too. I mean, just look at that in the back. Look at that. That's OG Xbox, guys. That's how great it was. Now, talking more about RPGs, let's move on to the next one. Dubbed as probably my favorite original Xbox game that I put more hours than anything into, we have Morrowind. This is actually the Game of the Year edition, which had all the DLC and stuff like this. You could spend literally probably years wandering around this map and still finding stuff to do. This was pre-Oblivion. This was pre-Skyrim. This was all that. They had levitation. You can make your own spells. You can make your own items. You could do whatever. And I remember just being so overpowered that when I got to the final boss on here, I just blew through the whole area. The only bad part that I did not like about this game nowadays, maybe call me what do you want to when it's spoiled with games, they did not tell you where to go at all. They threw you off. You got off the ship, you wandered out, and that was it. And the combat was very complicated at first. If you were not skilled in your weapons, you would swing about 10 times before you'd actually hit. So you had to have patience. You had to have, oh yeah, it was Xbox RPG Game of the Year from GameSpot. I don't know if you guys can really see as much back there, but like I said, I'm going to be putting some gameplay up so you guys can see this stuff. Morrowind has been one of my favorite games of all time. It had to be in at least my top 10, maybe my top 20, maybe my top 10. And now we're going to go on to game number 4. And obviously I was a huge RPG fan. Some people don't understand that, but I used to be an RPG fan when I had all to do. And what else better game to have that was only on Xbox but Fable? Now when Fable came out, people were very disappointed at first because they were dubbing this the game, the RPG of all RPGs. Any action you had a consequence in the story. You know, they made it sound like no matter what, this was going to, you know, so much could happen. Well, there was limitations and stuff like that. And when this game was released, it didn't get the best. It got a little disappointment at first. But that didn't mean that it didn't turn out good. And obviously spawned a bunch of sequels, trequels, or whatever the hell you want to call it. And as I know lately, I think they're working on another Fable game, which I'm super excited for. But I remember when I first got the original Fable, and if you were evil, you started growing horns. You started like having like, it was crazy. And if you were good, it was almost like you were angelic. And I still to this day every once in a while quote some of the things that they would say on here, like Chicken Chaser and stuff like that. And I just absolutely love this game. And I think that, you know, many people need to go back and play this one and Fable 2. These two were amazing games. And Fable 2, I just remember being so awesome. But it's best to play this one with the Lost Chapters edition because you get so much more stuff to do. And like I said, the story is just amazing. You're a boy, you know, going against you're joining the Heroes Guild, and you're going off on all these adventures. You're killing monsters. You're getting trophies. And there is a lot of consequences to your actions in this game. Not as much as they led you to believe in the beginning. But this is honestly one of my favorite Xbox games. Now lastly, I guess you could say I kind of leaked it. And you can't talk about OG Xbox without first talking about Halo. Now, when I got my Xbox, God, this was one of the first games I ever played on Xbox. Literally the first game I ever played on Xbox. I remember getting the Xbox for Christmas and still having to spend time at my grandma's house for the next few hours while I just sat there. And that night when I got home late at night, I remember trying to hurry up and hook it up. And I think I played through the first mission on here before I had to go to bed because I had to go to my grandma's the next morning. And me and my cousin, we sat there. We played through this whole game that next weekend on Christmas break. I remember just spending hours going through the library, being introduced to the Flood, and not expecting that at all. Just being like, it went from a regular action game where you're fighting aliens to almost like a zombie game in a matter of seconds. It was crazy. But I just remember that, you know, driving the Warthog around, you know, trying to steal Wraiths, trying to steal Banshees, and just destroying the Covenant. And now, even nowadays with the TV show and everything, still remembering all those great times playing this game and absolutely loving everything about it. Halo will always be one of my favorite Xbox games. Now, I know after Halo Reach and stuff like that, the popularity kind of went down. I've honestly never had the urge to play it after Reach. I was not a huge fan of Guardians or it looked like Halo 4, I believe. But this was still one of my favorite games, even now. Like, I find myself getting the Master Chief Collection out every once in a while and popping in and playing the original Halo. There you go, guys. Just talking about my 5 favorite. There's still a lot of games out there that I've obviously loved on it. X-Men Legends, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, Knights of the Old Republic, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. We can't talk about that. We can't talk about that one enough. Star Wars Battlefront 2. I believe that the OG Xbox is still underrated, and, you know, we still see Xbox obviously to this day. And I won't, you know, that can't be not talked about. But I still think that when we're talking about these games and we're talking about how the classic franchises, Xbox was still king to me. I loved PS2, don't get me wrong. I wasn't the best GameCube fan. I loved PS2 and Xbox because they had the RPGs, and I just was not a fan of GameCube because a lot of my friends honestly didn't have GameCubes. But a lot of my friends had Xboxes, and a lot of my friends had PS2s. And I remember hooking up system links to play Halo at my buddy's house. I remember sitting around for hours on the weekends when I didn't have school and playing through Fable, saving people, and then on another going through and playing it again, and this time being evil. And almost the same with Jade Empire. I just remember never playing an RPG like this, where the emphasis was on Eastern culture and karate, kung fu, and mystic arts. And then Ninja Gaiden. Hard as heck. I never remember... I was usually, when it came to games like this, if it got too hard, I just gave up. But I remember trying my hardest to get through this game. And to this day, I still haven't completely beaten it. But I plan to go back and do that soon. I think I might do that next year after I get through all the Metal Gear Solid games and play something like Dragon's Dogma and stuff like that. I hope to go back and play through this, guys. With that being said, guys, I want you to comment below what is some of your OG Xbox favorite games. And I also want to know, were you a big fan of the Duke controller? Now, there's a lot of controversy out there that people didn't like the big controller. And I personally, maybe call it nostalgia, but I enjoyed the larger controller. And to this day, I still like to bust out that Duke controller and play with it. But that being said, guys, as always, stay retro, my friends, and I will see you in the next video. Oh yeah, we're going with the Xbox love.
Super Retro Force.